Have you ever wondered what happens when someone comes back from the brink of death? In this video, we explore the extraordinary stories of 5 individuals who defied the odds and returned from being clinically dead. This is the strangest experience I've ever had as a registered nurse. In 1987, I was taking care of a woman in her mid-20s who was a drug addict. She had abdominal surgery and wasn't doing well her second night post-op. Around 12 a.m., she coded and we spent about 45 minutes trying to get her back, and the doctor even cracked her chest. He pronounced her dead, and we did the usual procedures after a patient dies: bath, call family, wrap up charting, and in this case, stuff her open chest with gauze. I called for 2 male techs to help me take her to the morgue downstairs. Well over an hour had gone by from start to finish. We put her on the morgue cart and went to the morgue. When we got there, we said a quick prayer and started to leave. We heard a weak cough. It scared us, and I told the tech to unzip the cover on the cart. When he did, the patient opened her eyes. We flew to the elevator and back to our unit, and we were screaming, "Call a code!" The staff looked at us in disbelief. We transferred her back to her bed and did an EKG, and she had a heartbeat. She went immediately to surgery to close her chest and then to ICU. A few months later, this very pretty and well-dressed woman came to the unit and asked if I remembered her. I couldn't place her. It was her. She said while we were coding her, she left her body. She followed us to the morgue and said she was yelling at us, but we couldn't hear her. She said she went back into her body after she went toward a light and a voice told her to. She got her life together after she left the hospital, went to rehab and got a job. I died in 2011, a very short death. Just like the movies, I floated above the room to see my wife frantically grabbing a wet towel and putting it on my forehead. Father-in-law was asking if he should call 911. It was surreal and pretty scary, actually. I then found myself in this white tube, kind of like a water slide, and a current pushing me along. It was warm, but I don't recall any water. A short journey later, I exited this tube and saw a building of some sort with a door. I approached and opened the door to be greeted by so many lost loved ones. My best friend, my grandparents, and so many family members I lost throughout the years. I even remember my beloved Cocker Spaniel pawing at my thigh, demanding he be petted. I remember rubbing my fingers through his hair and remembering how comforting it was. We talked for a very short time, and I don't remember anything we talked about. It was just a short visit, like a big meet and greet. I then was walked into another room where it was all white, the same white as the tube. I spoke with someone, but again, I don't remember who it was, nor could I see this person. I can only assume it was someone telling me I wasn't finished with this life yet. I then found myself in this tube again, but this time I could see my body at the end. I frantically pushed hard to go against the current. I remember my arms burning from using all of my strength to fight to get back. I also remember feeling like giving up and just going back to where I was just at. Something pushed me back, because I awoke to my wife sitting next to me. I remember my arms still burning as I awoke. My very first words to her was, "I died and just came back." She turned pale, and I shared with her what I had just experienced. I bring it up often, as she has had family members pass away. I tell her that it is not goodbye, it's just one of those till we meet again situations. My aunt had an experience like this when she was 18. She always suffered of chronic seizures, those always made her pass out. One day, she had one while no one was around. She was later found by my grandmother. The doctors luckily arrived in time to resuscitate her. She explained that she was in the brightest, most peaceful hallway. She wandered aimlessly through it, until she found a massive door closed on one end. She told my grandmother that she tried as hard as she could to open the door. Tapping, slamming, even kicking it would not allow the doors to break free. She looked back to see the back of the corridor gone, replaced with an emergency room. She was lying on stretcher while multiple nurses and doctors were frantically working to revive her. She gave up on the door, turned around and led for the surgery room. She inevitably reached the room and re-entered her body. She passed away at the age of 42, about 9 months ago. Heart failure after multiple seizures. She left behind 2 young daughters and a husband. We like to think that the doors opened for her. Growing up, my father used to tell me of an experience he had while having open heart surgery. The doctors had to stop his heart for about 20 or 30 minutes while they inserted a mechanical valve into his heart. At the time, he was in his early 20s and was involved in a lot of bad activity that he says he is ashamed of now. Anyway, while my dad was dead, he said he was in a very dark place, and as he wandered around, he started running into very scary people who were deformed and screaming at him. He ran for his life into a corner and hid. And just before the people got to him, he looked up and saw his deceased grandmother reach her hand down and grab him. The next thing my dad remembered, he was back in the hospital. He's convinced he was temporarily in hell. I don't know if this was just a dream state or something, but I've never seen my dad so convinced in his life. It was enough for him to turn his life around and turn to religion and, more importantly, come back to his family that he had left behind. A man came and spoke to one of my classes this semester about his near-death experience, and it gave me great comfort, so I wanted to share it here. He was kayaking with a friend and ended up flipping his and being sucked under by the current. He was sucked into a pipe underwater and struggled to get out, almost made it, and was sucked back in. He passed out, and his friend saw his lifeless body being tossed down the river. This is how he described his experience in the moments he was unconscious. He was in a dark place, almost like a cave, only the walls were soft and velvety. At the end of this cave was a beautiful kaleidoscope of colors. He made it sound similar to a stained glass window. And on the other side of this colored glass, dark figures were passing by. He said that all sense of time was lost, and it felt like his wife and kids would come join him at any minute. He said it was the most comforting and peaceful feeling he has ever experienced. He said that he had the strong sense that God wanted him and everyone there so badly, and that you must have to do something pretty terrible to go to hell because he wasn't the greatest of guys before this. His friend was able to catch up to his body and revive him, and he said now he feels a stronger connection with everyone and is grateful to have had this experience. As we conclude these incredible stories, we're left with questions that stretch our understanding of life and beyond. Whether you believe in the afterlife, the power of the human mind, or simply the mysteries of our universe, these accounts remind us that the journey through life and even beyond holds profound surprises.